Guys, what's up? This is officially the Force Friday 2 vlog and my haul and everything I got at the event. It was unbelievably hectic this year and it turned into a disaster pretty quick at the end. But before I get started, I got Joe, 111 LEGO Reviews 111, and, or sorry, 111 Brick Reviews 111, sorry Joe, I'm still getting used to that. And Nick, Epic Nick 100.
Hey.
Yeah. So they were at Force Friday 2 as well at their respective stores in Virginia and also in Kansas City where Joe is. And we'll loop back around to them at the end. But for now, how did everything go for me and my experience with Force Friday? So this is what I came out with. And this is mostly what I intended to pick up. You might notice this is the first time that I didn't actually pick up all of the sets, because honestly at this point, from what I understand, there have already been enough people reviewing the sets that I figured I would limit it this year and just kind of weed out what sets were really important to me and see if I could prioritize just those and review those first. And so I decided that I would just get the ones that mattered to me, and those were definitely the new Walker, Kylo Ren Starfighter, the Resistance Transport Pod, and that super cool BB-8 build. I freaking love that. I think that is so cool, and it was such a great idea that LEGO definitely should have had for The Force Awakens, but I'm glad they did it now. But the thing is, I'm just so surprised with how LEGO put out a couple of sets that just really, in my mind, aren't all that great, in the form of the Resistance Bomber. It's the set with Laura Dern's character and all the Resistance pilots. That set doesn't look overly exciting to me. You know, you've got the First Order Heavy Assault Walker or something, or is that? Or no, that's the First Order Heavy Assault Walker, but it's the First Order. I don't even know. I wasn't even researching this year. I mean, I don't even know the set names by heart for the first time in several years, but I'm talking about the set with the $50 set with Hux, the Resistance Trooper, the First Order like maintenance crew, and then the Flame Trooper. And I just, that set is meaningless to me, and I'm not gonna review it and waste a video on it. And so just little things like that that led to me deciding to just keep it to these four, and especially now because we had the official reveal of the UCS Millennium Falcon, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. I mean, the set looks, I mean, it is just unreal. It's, of course, I mean, you guys have probably seen more than enough pictures already if you've been keeping up with the whole reveal that happened just yesterday. But it was insane. I mean, finally seeing it. LEGO put out the designer video of the biggest LEGO set of all time. My iMac doesn't give a shit. Okay, here we go. And the box is super massive. It's probably gotta have dividers in there. I mean, it is just a dream come true LEGO set for people like me who missed out on the original as a kid 10 years ago. And hopefully sometime next year I'll be able to pick it up. Because I mean, that $800 price point is unbelievably steep for I think just about anyone, and even I am not going to be able to get that in a timely fashion. So that's going to be something far off in the future. Unfortunately, I will not be reviewing it on September 14th for the VIP release. However, I did managed to get these four sets. I'll definitely be reviewing the First Order Heavy Assault Walker. I'll probably be reviewing the BB-8 next. Kylo Ren Starfighter and the Resistance Transport Pod, I'm not entirely sure about yet, but I did pick them up anyway for myself. And then you might have noticed the other small things that I picked up that will lead into the rest of my Force Friday stories, such as the Black Series Last Jedi Rey, Kylo Ren, and then also Hera Syndulla, along with the Funko Pop of General Leia in her Last Jedi outfit, which is the Walmart exclusive Funko Pop. I did skip out on the Funko Pops this year because it's gotten to the point now, being in this apartment since May of 2015, where I've finally reached the point where I am completely at capacity, not just out here, but in my room that you guys have seen in previous vlogs. It's to the point now where I'm hanging Black Series figures up on the pegs, and some of you might wonder why I even keep them in the packaging. And by the way, this is kind of where LEGO starts to drop off from the vlog. So if you're uninterested in what I have to say about Black Series figures and other collectibles and different things that were available Force Friday, then maybe this is where you guys check out. But I will mention really quick, before I actually go into my whole Force Friday experience, the Defenders. The Defenders happened. It's been a long time since I've vlogged, and I thought it was amazing. I did not have a problem with that, it being only 8 episodes. I thought it was an amazing 8 episodes. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was the best Netflix series Marvel and Netflix have put out. I thought it was just absolutely fantastic. But I did start on my own custom Defenders. I am making the 4 of them. And so, of course, that leads into several of you asking, but what's going on with the Flash Season 3 figures? And I just want to get all this out of the way for those of you who want to know before I talk about all that stuff. And so, with the Flash Season 3, Sonder and I have finally got to work on Savitar. Progress has been made, and Sonder's doing an amazing job already. And I sent him, like, I went through on Netflix and just screenshot it and brightened up every frame I could find that would be useful for reference in making a custom Savitar. And so I sent all of that to him, and he got started on it. And again, it looks amazing so far already, and I can't wait for you guys to see it. But in the meantime, because we're still getting Savitar together, I figure I might as well prioritize figures from the Defenders and make the 4 of them, because there really isn't, they're not too demanding of figures to make. Once you get past the painted faces, their clothing is pretty straightforward. And so I decided that I'll just prioritize them first and then worry about, you know, the bigger projects like Thor Ragnarok, like Justice League, and I'll figure out where the Flash Season 3 will fit in somewhere down the line. But what I want to show you guys is I did put up some preview photos, such as this one for Daredevil, and this is my Defenders Daredevil, also Daredevil Season 2, because this is the same suit that he had in Daredevil Season 2 that he carried over onto into the Defenders. And so I did get started on this, and that's pretty much most of the progress that I have. The rest of the figure is still a work in progress, but I'm super happy with the way it's turning out. It is definitely a step up from the one I made back in like 2015 for sure. And then the most progress I actually have is on Danny Rand, Iron Fist, and pretty much the progress that I had was already seen in the preview photo, and he's got a pretty straightforward jumpsuit, and I'm not really going to spoil what costume that is if you have yet to see the Defenders. However, I did get a D-Cool knockoff transparent yellow hand for him. Shut up, I think it looks cool. And then also I did paint that face, and I'm super happy with the way the likeness turned out. And the Superman hairpiece I really didn't think would work out on Danny Rand's you know, for his hairstyle, because he's got like the curlier hairstyle and all that stuff, but it actually worked out really well. I'm super happy the way that looks, and I did a little bit of sanding, and it believe it or not, I was genuinely surprised, because I had several hairpiece options for Danny, and that was probably like 3rd or 4th on the list, to be honest. So anyway, back to Force Friday. Now that I've informed you of what's going on with custom minifigures, also I just want to mention, super last minute, the Hot Toys Anakin Skywalker looks amazing, and I ordered it, my first Hot Toys figure since 2013. But that'll be really cool next year. So back to this, what happened at the Toys R Us in the mountains of Asheville, North Carolina. So I go there for Force Friday now every year at 6 p.m. You might ask why. Why do I go to Force Friday at 6 p.m.? Why do I sit out in front of a Toys R Us for 6 hours to pick up a few $20 figures that will be widely available in a couple weeks, not even? And it is simply to save on time, because if I can go there, sit there for 6 hours, and by the way, if you camped out for conventions before, like Star Wars weekends, for instance, that they would hold at Hollywood Studios, or Star Wars Celebration, if you do what Joe and I did for Celebration, camp out at 2 major panels, 2 straight days in a row, and sleep on the floor with all of your friends, it is a breeze to sit in front of a Toys R Us for 6 hours. It really is. And it blew by super quick. The waiting was not the issue. The issue was it rained for the first hour. Thankfully, they were nice enough to come out with an umbrella, because all of our umbrellas are broken, apparently. Like my family, we just don't own umbrellas. And so they came out with an umbrella for the first hour. It was relentlessly raining, and I posted pictures on of that whole thing on Twitter and on Facebook. Actually, on just Twitter and my Instagram story. But we sit there for 6 hours. It's fine. It's great. Blows by really quick. And then we go in. Of course, I was first in line because I'm a lunatic. It was there 6 hours early, and they had no Black Series figures. And again, if you don't know what the Black Series figures are, you just saw them out there. These guys 6-inch $20 figures that Hasbro puts out. They're really great quality figures for the most part, most of the time. And this year they were gonna have Rey in her Last Jedi outfit, Luke in his Last Jedi outfit, or at least in his Octu outfit, and then Hera along with Grand Admiral Thrawn, and those were going to be the 5 figures, and then Kylo Ren's also thrown in there. Not sure if I mentioned it, but of course I did find these 3, so I'll get to that in a second. But we ran in, and they didn't have any Black Series figures. What they did have were 2 full pegs of Commander Gree. And Commander Gree recently got his own Black Series figure, and it's amazing, but I got this like a month ago when he came out online for the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive release. And they had 2 full pegs of Black Series Commander Grees, and they didn't have any of the new ones coming out for The Last Jedi for Force Friday 2. And I was livid. 6 hours wasted. The whole purpose of me doing this is so that I get it all done in one shot. I just move on, I start working on figures, and in this case, for this year, I'm doing the Millennium Falcon analysis first, which I totally should have mentioned at the start of the video, but I am doing an analysis video on the UCS Millennium Falcon before I review any of the new sets, but they didn't have them. So I was like, what, you know, I was internally panicking, of course. And I'm asking a guy, I'm like, hey, you guys are like missing half your stock here. You're missing the hottest item, because it's arguably like the Black Series figures are like arguably the hottest item to be selling on Force Friday, and they just didn't have them, which is super shady because it's borderline impossible for that to have happened at a Toys R Us store, because every Toys R Us nationwide did this midnight launch, and Joe can tell you that because Joe is an assistant manager at Toys R Us in Kansas City, and every Toys R Us got these Black Series figures. And then so of course one of the employees is trying to tell me that they might be expecting more, and I knew it was all BS. I knew that they probably ended up, somebody there probably grabbed the only 2 cases that each Toys R Us is meant to get, and so I just didn't waste any more time. I just grabbed all 4 of those sets over there, got them, rang up, ran out of there, and then we drove over to Walmart. On the way there, my mom's drink dumped all over me. I mean, we're like on the highway, like trying to get around these 2 massive semis, of course. So trying to avoid truck drivers. And then when we got there was like another giant truck, because of course it's midnight, and so you have truck drivers coming in and dropping off their loads to each retail store. But of course that all happens, and this giant semi like makes a huge wide turn in front of us as we're pulling into the Walmart parking lot, and you know, just all of this is happening, and it was insane. I kind of like jogged into this freaking Walmart. I managed to get what we collectors call peg warmers, because Kylo Ren apparently is this year's... Wow, the shot got super red. This light, man. Peg warmers are basically figures that are super common, and apparently this for Force Friday, it was Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, and the Stormtrooper. Those 3 guys are this year's peg warmers. So I got Kylo Ren, which doesn't have the scar printed on, which is aggravating, because a future version they're coming out of with Kylo Ren that he's going to have like a stand. Apparently he's going to be like a Walmart exclusive, and he's going to have more fabric than this version will have the scar. But I don't even care, I just got this one. And so I got that really quick, ran out, went to the next Walmart, which is right by our apartment complex here, and they weren't even doing midnight launch. I walked up to a guy there. I'm like, hey man, if I give you some UPCs, could you put it in? Could you just run these really quick? And so I tried to pull up the UPCs, couldn't even find them because of how no information is really easily accessible about Force Friday like beforehand. So that was super aggravating, because I just had to walk out of there. They had nothing. I mean, like the Last Jedi wasn't even happening. Like Force Friday wasn't even a thing for this Walmart. It was hilarious. So walked out of there, drove to the final Walmart. At this point, my mom and I are busting. It is a stressful situation for these figures. I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering, why do you go through such hassle? and not just order them online, because at that point you can't order them online for the next couple weeks, because at that point pre-orders are pretty much gone and all you have are hiked up prices through and through for the next several weeks. And so I figured I'd try my hand at one final Walmart for the night and then call it there and go home with the sets and Kylo Ren, and it would have been just kind of a failure. Thankfully though, I went to the final Walmart and I found 2 Rays. Actually, there were 3 Last Jedi Rays left over. There were no Lukes, but I did manage to get a Ray. There were 3 of them, so I managed to pick the one with the best paint job. And then there was an extra Hera. At this point, it's like 1 a.m., 1:30, an hour and a half later, I somehow managed to find one of the 2 main figures that I wanted to pick up from this wave of Black Series figures. So what's really great too is I had a friend, the Super Jedi, Eric Patrick Cameron. You guys can check him out on Twitter, and also the Rogue Squadcast on YouTube. He had me backed up the whole time because he was at his Target in New York, where he actually managed to get extras of the entire wave of Black Series figures from me, should I not have been able to even find these 3. And thankfully he managed to get Thrawn, and also he managed to get Luke for me. So major thanks to him, because without him I would have come home like missing 2 of the figures. And I did, but he's got me covered with those 2, and this collecting business, it is just absolutely ridiculous, and it's a part of me doing this for Force Friday. It's like, it wasn't this bad for Rogue One. Like, Hasbro really had the distribution down for Rogue One. It was much better. And I mean, you know, there was such an abundance of Rogue One figures. Now you can get the whole wave for like $30. I mean, all the figures that came out Force Friday, because Hasbro really had a handle on the distribution and the making of the Rogue One figures. But I don't know what happened this year, because Walmart did not provide consistent results, because like for the Force Awakens and Rogue One, it was really not great at most Walmarts. And then this year was fantastic. Every Walmart had every Black Series figure nationwide, and God forbid I rely on Toys R Us to do this, to pull this off, and it was just insane. And so to conclude my experience with Force Friday, I think I nailed down the majority of it. I got this free poly bag, this astromech from Rogue One, because I spent 50 or more or whatever. I got the free shirt. Thankfully, they at least had those. My Toys R Us didn't have the free poster, and I don't really care, to be completely honest with you. I got the AT, the First Order Heavy Assault Walker. I still have yet to learn the new actual, you know, I think it's their ATM6s, if I'm not mistaken. ATME6. I haven't honestly looked into it. I didn't watch that episode of the Star Wars show. So that's something I'll look into later. But the point is, Force Friday was almost a disaster this year when it came to getting these Black Series figures that I go early for, because that's another thing I wanted to point out. These sets, getting the Lego sets, are always it's always a very easy thing to do. Most people don't go for the Lego sets first off. If you're not in a main city doing this, you don't have to worry about getting the sets. They're always enough if you're not in a main city. But in like Joe's case, which he'll mention in a minute, people were actually buying out, you know, the walkers and a couple of these other sets. But I knew the Lego sets weren't a concern, but getting these, man, it can be a real hassle if you're unlucky, if things go to hell like they did for me almost. But again, thanks to my buddy Eric, who bailed me out with those other 2 figures I was missing. So yeah, but I'm gonna get started on the UCS Millennium Falcon analysis pretty soon here. But before I do, Joe, Nick, how did Force Friday go? Wait, I didn't unmute the mic because I'm an idiot. Joe, Nick, how did Force Friday go for both of you?
It was long.
Yeah, because again, Joe, you know, you're the assistant manager at Toys R Us in Kansas City. It's insane what goes into setting up all of this for Force Friday every year, and Joe, for the first time, was in charge practically.
Yeah, it was fun. Like, I was actually very proud that we like executed this event flawlessly, and it went well for everyone. So
yeah, for Joe, there were, like, at my Toys R Us here in Asheville, there were like 30 people. And then in Kansas City, though, didn't you say there were like 100 people almost?
No, almost 50.
Oh, you guys finally got like a legit tally?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Not that much. Oh my goodness.
But I probably felt that way, and apparently there were people like at Nick's Toys R Us that were doing like porg chants because Disney's got
Porg,
like
porg,
yeah.
porg.
Disney's got like every Star Wars fan brainwashed into loving porgs before anybody even knows what they are. I mean,
I know, I almost bought one myself.
Joe, I am not jumping on the porg merchandising train. I mean, if I want one, I will use my sister as an excuse and buy one, and I'll put it in her room. But until I have a reason to care about the porgs, the cuteness will not overtake me. I refuse. Anyway, yeah, so it went a little bit easier for most of my friends. They at least were able to find some of the figures, and by that I mean like, you know, Lego Manic 9 and, you know, like The Last Prime and a couple other people that also attempted this hysteria at midnight. Absolute, just total mania, ridiculousness. And I think I might not even go to Force Friday for Han Solo next year, if there even is a Force Friday for Han Solo. I don't know. Apparently last year for Rogue One didn't even qualify as a Force Friday because this was Force Friday 2 officially, and last year was just Rogue Friday. So maybe next year, if they even do something, it'll be Solo Friday, or I don't know. I won't be there though. Definitely not at my Toys R Us if employees there. Joe will be, but definitely not me if employees at my Toys R Us here locally are able to get away with pulling figures out of the back early when, of course, street dates and everything else mandate otherwise. Speaking of street dates, to close out the vlog, that is also the #1 reason that I was not one of the people reviewing the sets early, because, guys, at this point, you know, YouTube has become like so insane, and everything is such a chase to get the sets early, and I don't talk about it enough, but I go at my own pace, I run my own race, and I didn't mean for that rhyme, but I also do not want to go through the hassle of having people bypass street dates, the hours it takes to go to stores, doing that, try and convince people, the phone calls that you have to make all throughout the day, the driving that it takes to get to those places. I mean, the luck you have to have, the connections you have to for these stores to totally disregard Disney and Lucasfilm's instructions to keep these behind closed doors before Force Friday is too much for me, and too much time, especially if I am to make custom minifigures and also, you know, pursue academic goals. It's just unrealistic for me to try to surpass and get past street dates and review sets early. It is just, and especially in Asheville, North Carolina, for sure. It's not an easy thing to do, and like I said, it takes far too much unnecessary effort to pull that off. And again, that is why I am reviewing the UCS Millennium Falcon, or not reviewing, I'm doing the analysis first, and then I will review the Heavy Assault Walker, and then BB-8. If I review, like, if I, out of these 4 sets, if I have to pick 2 to review, it's going to be these 2 guys right here, the Walker and BB-8.
The BB-8, it's a good set.
Yeah, and so then the Kylo Ren Starfighter and the Resistance Transport Pod. Hopefully I won't have to pass up reviews on these guys, but I am getting my wisdom teeth taken out on September 8th in exactly 1 week. So depending on how fast I can do this analysis, how fast I can review these 2 sets, and how much time that will leave me to finish the Defenders and get started on future projects like Thor and Justice League, I don't know where 2 set reviews will fit in there, because that will be like a straight 2 full days I'd have to dedicate to just reviewing those 2 sets. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think 1 week should be enough time to make some real progress on a lot of this, and it should be alright. But yeah, guys, a little bit ending on a little bit of a more grim note, as this Force Friday was definitely the worst Force Friday yet. It was craziness. I was not expecting my store to not even have a single figure that I was looking for out of all these guys. But yeah, anyway, I think that is it for the Force Friday vlog for The Last Jedi 2017. It is so cool to be doing this, especially after Celebration and having seen, you know, the entire, like, The Last Jedi cast, after having seen Daisy Ridley and John Boyega up on stage, after meeting Rian Johnson. Joe was there with me for all of that. It is so cool to be doing this, you know, for their movie after having seen and met them in person. It's definitely been one hell of a year, and that concludes it for this year's Force Friday vlog. And Joe, Nick, say goodbye.
Bye.
Okay. All right. I'll catch you guys later.